the title of the talk is going to be Alice in Open Source Land. Magdalena is going to share a bit more about her story of stepping into the rabbit hole of contributing to open source software. She's going to introduce herself, so without further ado, I want to welcome to the stage Magdalena Kowalczuk. Give her a big round of applause.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, so let's start. My name is Magdalena Kowalczuk, and yeah, I'm a teacher. I teach Dutch as a foreign language, and I also paint portraits on the walls. And that's why some people call me a street artist. So you might ask yourself at this moment, why am I speaking at a PyData event and about open source? And that's exactly what I will explain in the first part of this talk. Then I'll give you a bunch of random numbers about open source, but also my first-person perspective of how it feels to contribute to open source. We will follow with the key learnings from open source and from contributing to open source software. And then I will feel a very spontaneous urge to tell you more about Narwhals. Narwhals is the library that I'm contributing to. And last, and the most important, I'll give you practical tips on how to do the first step and start contributing, actually. Ooh, that went well. Cool. Okay, so I was living my chill life of a teacher and street artist in Amsterdam, and when the pandemic hit, I thought, maybe let's find a hobby that's a bit more challenging than painting on walls. And I thought, let's go back to programming. And I said, let's go back, because when I was 9 or 10 years old, my father brought this machine home. And so I would like to ask, who of you ever played on Commodore 64? Okay. Who of you programmed in BASIC on Commodore 64? Yes, high five. Okay, we have one person. That's cool. Yeah, so this time I went for Golang, not for BASIC. And it was really going well. I really liked it, but slowly I started to gravitate towards machine learning / data science. And I actually enjoyed this so much that at some point I thought, hey, I want it to be my job. I wanted to do it on a daily basis. So I've set up a plan, a learning plan, with the goal to transition into a data science role or something similar. And part of this plan, then the most scary, was to go out to people and speak the data language to them. And that's how I volunteered last year at this conference, actually. And that was one of the best decisions in my life, because I've met so many great people. And that I think at the beginning of this year, I really felt that if I polish my portfolio, I could start applying for jobs. But then there was this little voice in my head that said, yeah, Magda, you never wrote a single test in your life. And your documentation skills suck. And you know that Git game could also use some grinding. And I thought, how can I fix it? And then, oh no, yeah, okay. And then I thought, hey, let's do some open source. And that wasn't the first time that I thought about it, because I already thought that open source is really an amazing idea. So back in the Golang times, I'll also try to enter and start contributing, but I failed. But this time I had a really good motivation. And yeah, because of the people I met at PyData Amsterdam last year, and also thanks to PyLadies Amsterdam, I went to Open Source Sprint, and that's where I did my first contribution. That's actually the second, but I like this more than the first one because of the examples down there. And as you can see, those are doc strings and examples. So the part of the code that you can see when you visit the documentation of a project, if the project has documentation and with examples. And then I went to PyData Berlin. That was also really great. That was PyCon and PyData Berlin. And I met even more nice people. And that's how I joined Narwhals. And Narwhals, that's a Python library that builds like a compatibility layer to make your data tool data frame agnostic, so you can use it for different types of data frames. And yeah, so I was doing there also doc strings, but I've been quickly encouraged to try something else, try to do more difficult stuff. And I was so excited about all those new things that I'm learning that I painted a narwhal, and I also wrote a blog post about it. And Marco, who's the author of this library, said, hey, that would make actually a pretty good talk proposal for PyData, and here I am. Yeah. Okay. So what's up with open source? I would like to start this part by asking you the question, who of you never ever contributed to open source? Okay, cool. Then we have some people to lure into the rabbit hole. Okay. Yeah, so what's open source? Open source, you probably have a feeling for that, but that's a software. Open source software is a software that you can freely view, you can modify it, and also distribute it, based on some kind of license. And yeah, so knowing that, what do you think? What part of software in general is open sourced? Do you think it's like more 10%? Raise your hand up. Okay, yeah, 10%, it's quite a lot of all the software, I think. Who thinks it's 90%? Okay, slightly more people, and you were right, that's 90% around. It's really difficult to get like like some solid numbers about how many projects there are. But there are a lot, and there are a lot of people who contribute to open source. And I was able to find a really nice research about the numbers. It's a bit Europe-centric, but I think will do for the purposes of the talk. And as you can see, the region we are now is doing really well, just as the other regions where the main cities are. And I would really like to see a correlation of the numbers of contributors and the average temperatures in the country, because as we can see, that doesn't go too well, and I understand that. And I have also a question, because that's for regions, so that's the number of active open source contributors per 100K inhabitants. What do you think is the country that has the most active open source contributors per 100K inhabitants? And I will give you a hint, because that's a tricky question. So what do you think which European country is? And if you have an idea, give it to me. Netherlands. That's, yeah, that's a good guess, I think. Anybody else? Germany, yeah. Ireland, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty dark. Okay, that's Iceland. Yeah, and if you did some geo-plotting, then you know the pain, you know, of Iceland or Alaska. Yeah, it's not even in the map. Do we have people from Iceland in here? No? Okay. They're probably busy contributing to open source. Okay. And yeah, so now's the time, and that's really painful, for some personal experiences with open source. So let me take a sip and a deep breath before I share it. So, okay, so that's one of the experiences I had just in the beginning when I joined Narwhals, the open source library that allows you to build data frame agnostic tools. And I was totally in my comfort zone doing the doc strings, and I think the doc strings are a really good opportunity to get familiar with the project. So I was doing that, and Marco, the author of Narwhals, pretty quickly encouraged me to do some more coding. And yes, and I was excited that he did that, but I was also terrified. Because I didn't understand anything in the internals. I was able to do like doc strings, but I didn't know what the code does. And the task at hand was to add a DDoF argument, so delta degrees of freedom, to standard deviation. So how hard can it be? But yeah, it was, for me at least at that time, very hard. And yeah, so I looked up the method, and I found that it wasn't present in the code once, not twice, but 4 times actually. And but I was really happy. Yes, I see the structure. Maybe now I can do what I'm good at doing. I paint portraits, so I take a photo and copy it on the wall. So let's copy something. And I found another function that was passing the argument, so I could like check how it's done there. Was really happy about that. Cool. And then I noticed that correction argument that was there, and I was like, is there a correction argument in the standard deviation function? I don't think so. And I could do a research, but I thought, hey, I know how to pass the argument, so I'll just brute force, that, and just try it in different arbitrary places in the code. And of course, it didn't work. So then I did my research, lost at least 2 hours doing that brute forcing. And yeah, and when I did the research, I didn't learn what the correction was, but I could exclude that it's anything else than the delta degrees of freedom. So I assumed, okay, that's it. Let's erase that part of the code, even though it was there and somebody smarter than me put it there. And it worked. And it worked. And you probably know that feeling when something works and it shouldn't, because you erased part of the code. So I wrote some more tests, and I just wanted to see with my eyes that this this method is doing what it's supposed to do, also with those delta degrees of freedom. And yeah, and it was working. And I stared for, I think, another half an hour at this code, asking myself, should I push or should I not push? Because, yeah, I did everything. I did my research, I tried everything, it worked, I tested it, should work. But then, what if I make a fool of myself? What if they're gonna think at Narwhals that, oh my God, she's crazy, she just, erased that part of the code. But that's what you're learning, actually, by contributing to open source, that, hey, that's a learning opportunity, and you should just use it. And I pushed, and that's when I got this really nice, not moving at this moment, GIF. And yeah, and that's what we do when you do a PR, and it's good. You will get a cat or a dog GIF. For it, and Francesco is also giving dolphins and narwhals. So you can hope for Francesco to accept your PR, because they're really cool. Okay, so that was like a positive roller coaster, but sometimes it's less positive when you just ship code that doesn't do anything or doesn't mean anything, and then you feel more like that during the review process. And yeah, and that's just part of the experience. It's, yeah, allow yourself to do those kind of mistakes. Try to avoid them, but yeah, if it happens, it happened. And yeah, I'm not even ready to start the story of Git. So I just leave you with this meme. And maybe next time I need to process that, you know. So the key learnings. What you can learn by contributing to open source is how to handle your lack of confidence. But that's probably what you will be facing if you're a beginner, transitioner. But if you are like quite experienced, you are just entering a community of people who know what they do and what they are working on. At least they say so. And yeah, so you'll suffer from this probably, and you can grow yourself a growth mentality also to just make mistakes, to learn from them, I think. I firmly believe you can learn Git. I'm still on my way, but I believe you can do it. And yeah, of course, documentation and testing are parts that you can learn by contributing. That's really crucial, a part of the open source experience. And also collaborating and in challenging circumstances, because yeah, you probably will be in different time zones, on different levels. So that's a perfect place to do the, to train the collaboration skills. And I think what's most appealing to me is meeting the experts and talking to experts, because they really enjoy sharing their knowledge. And so if you want to learn, the experts probably gonna help you with that. And yeah, so what you won't learn is data science, at least not in the sense of turning data into actionable solutions, because yeah, of course you can get some data out of GitHub, but not by contributing to it. But you can become a better as a data scientist, that's for sure, because you can become an expert on a tool, and I think every data team will welcome a person that's expert on pandas or polar, stuff like that. And for me, scikit-learn, the first library that I contributed, it gave me a better understanding of estimators and narwhals. I don't want that it made me kind of polyglot of data frame APIs, but I feel more freely switching between different data frames types. Okay, and yeah, so speaking of narwhals, that's the library I'm contributing to. And I think what conveys what it's for is this message that we have in our documentation. It's made by Olga Urdeje and really nice. And if you have problems with interpreting artworks, when narwhals is in a project, then pandas and polars can chill together. And pandas is, of course, a standard in the data frame and data manipulation. And polars is one project that's really getting some traction at this moment. So with narwhals, they can do work together. But at this moment, it looks more like that, because we expanded on backends, and we now support also Dask. And Dask is today here, and Modin, and also QDF, that's from NVIDIA, and PyArrow. And narwhals is really great. I think it's a future for the data tools, actually, because there are so many data frame libraries at this moment, and we need to integrate it and be able to use a tool on whatever type of data frame. And you can go to narwhals and give us a star if you like the idea, of course. And that's narwhals is just some more technical terms. So as I mentioned before, it's compatibility layer. And what we really look into is that it stays lightweight and that it has zero dependencies and little to no overhead. we use for it subset of the Polars API. So if you know Polars, then using narwhals shouldn't be a problem. And we also offer full static typing and also stable API for those who understand what that means. Maybe a bit. OK, and I wanted to show you the internals, but I think you've seen too many technical talks by now, so I'll give you just the animation of a little narwhal. And so you bring your own data frame as a user. Narwhal picks it up and brings it to the right backend. In this case, somebody came with the pandas data frame, so it brings to pandas. It picks up the result and gives you back. That's it. And how does it look in the code? So let's say we are building a data tool for some basic statistics. I wrote this code in Polars. And yeah, so I want to make it data frame agnostic. So what I need to do, I import narwhals instead of Polars. I add a decorator, narwhalify decorator, and I change the PL to NW. So I'll just show you. Easy, eh? And if you feel spicy, you can also add some typing if you need that. And yeah, and I think that's the most cool thing about open source, that you can contribute to such a great idea. So if you would also like to start contributing, but you never, ever worked, for example, with Git and never contributed anything, I think that this project on GitHub is a very good project to do your first step. What you do there is you just change a text file, you add your name, and then you push it. But on the way, you need to fork it, clone it, and do all the steps that are crucial and get yourself familiar with how to do that. It didn't work for me, by the way. I tried this and I failed. There was something I think I didn't understand about the remote. Then another thing, if you're already skilled, you program every day, and you have also, for example, your favorite library, you can go to this library, add the contribute, and then you'll see like a page with Git good first issues. So that's how it looks for Hugging Face transformers, and that's how it looks for Polars. It also didn't work for me. I failed. I tried many times, but the good first issue was never a good first issue for me. And a third thing you could try, it also didn't work for me because I just discovered it 3 weeks ago when I was scanning through EuroSciPy program, and that's Hitchcast by Nicoletta and Sebastian. And that's like a mock Python library about list manipulation. So that's something easy. You should probably know if you're doing some work with data, because it's all Python. But then you can focus on doing the Git stuff. And I think that's great. And yeah, I could find it before. It would probably help me. So you probably ask yourself now, so, hey, yeah, what worked for you? Talk to maintainers. So PyData Amsterdam and PyData Berlin really helped me to meet people who are authors and maintainers, and they encourage me to do this first step. And you might think, hey, that's easy said. So how do I talk to a maintainer? So I would like to ask active contributors, maintainers, and authors of open source projects who could use some help from new contributors to raise their hands. OK, so look at those folks. Yeah, we have 3. Francesco, raise your hand. We need people. And yeah, and talk to those people, because they're gonna tell you probably about how you can help and if you can help. And the second very secret ingredient is go to an open source sprint, because that's one of the best places. I thought to be honest, that open source sprints are only for people who are already seasoned contributors, and apparently that's not true. And you can find out tomorrow, because tomorrow there will be the open source sprint for narwhals. And Marco Gorelli, the author of narwhals, Francesco Bruzzesi, one of the most active contributors and maintainers of narwhals, will be there, and I'll be there to help you if you never ever contributed and you need a helping hand. So come to our sprint tomorrow. It will be in the Azure room there upstairs. And if you would like to stay in touch, maybe join open source project later. If you have questions, you can reach me either on LinkedIn, Magdalena Kowalczuk. Mat Kowalczuk is the handle, and then on GitHub, Anopsy, which is also my street artist name. So let's stay in touch. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Magdalena. Are there any questions in the room? See, there was a hand that went up really quickly.
Hi, hello, is this working? Yes.
It's working, I can hear you.
Hi, Magdalena. I want to ask, so I see that you have artistic side, you do artistic creations, you do coding, open source contributions. You are also an expert meme designer from the slides. I want to ask, switching between these domains, mainly the artistic and technical domains, it has to have some cost of getting into the flow, or cost of energy or time cost of switching. How do you deal with that switching personally?
Yeah, I don't. I just stopped painting. So yeah, that's the cost.
Question over here.
Great talk. I have a question. So if I'm new to contributing to open source, so because there's so many libraries on GitHub, where should I start? Which library should I probably look into first?
The one that you are using, for example, and maybe you want to improve, because we know the reality of working with tools, they not always do what we want. So that's a good starting point. Also,
So
Next one
I have
over
a question. Can you listen to me? Okay.
there.
So I wanted to ask you, let's say, if you're thinking about contributing to open source project, you have many options. And let's say, what are the kind of key things you'll see into a project to get to contribute to that project? Is it the documentation? Is it the community? Or is there anything special that you look into?
Could you repeat the question? I didn't get the gist of it. So
Okay, it's better. So you have many projects on which you could contribute. As a contributor, let's say as a new one, which things you look into a project to engage with it?
Okay. To be honest, I'd start with community to get familiar with the people, what kind of help do they need, and what the rules are in the community. Of course, documentation is a good starting point, because there you usually have also the contributing guide, so a bunch of information you need to start contributing. So definitely reaching out to community. For example, we have a Discord, and then you can just jump and ask questions and post some GIFs, memes.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, definitely a very interesting topic, very well brought. I'm wondering, you speak about the sprints, and I'm wondering, is there a place online where I can find an overview of all the sprints that will be held in the coming so many months? Because I know a lot of people who are in software craft community, but actually I know very few open source contributors, which I was really surprised that 90% of code would be there, because I haven't met very many contributors. Yeah. And I'm wondering, tomorrow is of course nice, but there's also other presentations, so it's going to be tricky. Where can I find more of these sprints? Because that sounds really cool.
Oh, that's a good question, because there's actually not a single place where you can look, but I would start with Meetup. For example, the PyLadies sprint that I attended as the first one in my life then was on Meetup and also on LinkedIn. So I think PyLadies is a good place to start because it's not only for ladies. Yeah, so Meetup should do.
Any more questions?
Thank you. I want to a bit reverse of one of the previous questions. As a contributor and maintainer, what are your advices on attracting people to contribute to your repository and how to attract novice people for it?
Talk about it to other people that, hey, there's this great library, for example, in case of narwhals, that's not so difficult because the idea is really cool. And I think people, would enjoy it. But yeah, I think maintainers are in general doing a good job because they are talking about it. And I think it's spreading the word the most important, and also keeping it fun when you already have people in the community and they come just, to ask questions, be welcoming, and I think that will do.
I think we have time for one final question. Otherwise, we can go to an early lunch. Thank you so much, Magdalena. Give it up for Magdalena.
Yeah, enjoy your lunch. Thank you.